Peace. This is the Conversation with God, part 3.
We're going to start right out the gate.
All right, let's go out the gate. Let's make sure I got the key. All right, let's go.
So one of the questions I always had coming around, and this is no disrespect to the elders for one.
Yeah.
I love for all of them.
Okay.
They provided, the knowledge so that I could get it.
Yeah.
Things of that nature.
Yeah.
One question I always had was, if brothers had knowledge of self, right?
Mm-hmm.
How come so many fell victim to the drugs and those elements that we know anyone with a mind knows that those things are harmful?
Well, let's be clear about something, God. And again, before we start on that question, today's mathematics is build or destroy. So we're going to build, have a real dialogue, and we're going to destroy all the bullshit and all the myths that's out there in the current of the atmosphere. When you talk about why the brothers and sisters fell victim with all this knowledge, you got to remember the times we were living in the 60s. We're talking about 63 when Allah came out that mosque, and 64 when he started sharing this knowledge, which is considered to be our year one. And let me rectify this year one thing for most of y'all out there. Your year one is when you got knowledge, that date. That's the year you got knowledge. Don't be telling me you got knowledge in 1964. You wasn't even born yet. Okay? That year one, 10/10/64, was when Prince, firstborn Prince, from what I received, is when he got his knowledge. You see what I'm saying? Which was the understanding. He was the third in that succession. Right? So he was the great understanding. If you do 10/10/10/10, you get what? You get 40. Right? So we're dealing with a understanding of the culture between the 1 and the 2. And this is according to ABG. If you looked at when we got our signage on the law school, ABG breaks down the order of things and the order of how the first 9 got it. Now, to answer your question, going back, we're talking about a time where drugs was running rampant in the 60s. You're talking about the civil rights movement. You're talking about the nation itself. I'm talking about the Nation of Islam was really on a swing with Malcolm and many others, you know what I'm saying? And Elijah, and a lot of things was happening around that time. Young brothers who got this knowledge before Allah came on the scene was involved in gang life, was involved in turbulent things in the neighborhood. They didn't have father figures. They didn't even have mother figures. They had to figure it all out on their own. Now, when they got this knowledge, which was what I gathered by talking to some who walked with some, they began to open up their horizon like this is a newfound way of thinking. Did that change who they were at that moment? No. Right? It takes time to clean yourself up when you're caught up in the midst of a current of an atmosphere that's already destructive. Right? Now, we ain't making no excuses for those who had this knowledge purely and still chose to go the alternate route. Some went selling it. Some went selling it and using it. Some became addicted to it. Thought that they can, get high off their own supply. Peace to Biggie. You understand what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, there's a story, and Allah be, all praises due to him, and even in the Naked Truth, which Abu Shahi spoke about, he said that he was a monkey, a turned out monkey, right? And Allah B said it himself that he was the one that put these brothers on heroin. Now, why would a brother who's trying to save you put you on heroin? Right? Put you on the same thing that's causing total destruction. I can't explain that. All I can tell you is that's some bullshit. Okay? Here it is, we trying to, and I say trying to because some tried to do like the original man and fell victim to it. Okay? That's in your 38th degree. Right? Fell victim to the devil's civilization. It's the same thing like motherfuckers sticking pins with the COVID-19. Right? The 28th degree talks about sticking pins in a baby's brain. Yet, you got brothers who say they got knowledge and took the COVID-19 anyway. Okay, 19. For those who forgot what 19 means, self a savior. COVID means a covert operation, a mandate, and they fell victim to that. Now, why did they do that, God? I can't answer for them, but I can tell you this. It lets me know, and for those who are truly in depth with this, that they didn't study their mathematics correctly. They did not take this shit the way they should have. And I say this shit, not that it's shit, but I'm talking about the shit that they're in is because their minds, as well as where they were at, maybe they had some troubled backgrounds. Maybe they was traumatized as a kid. This was their way out. Who knows? Nevertheless, once you get this knowledge, you're not supposed to go backwards. You're supposed to be going forward. So why did they fall victim, God? Some didn't have the strength to realize. They thought that they could master the drug. The drug ended up mastering them. You know what I mean? Because once you get that type of drug, cocaine, heroin, and whatever else was out there at the time, other than weed, you know what I mean? It wasn't tainted with all the shit that's tainted it with now. It was some natural shit at the time, you know what I mean, per se. That was the closest thing you got to a controlled substance. But again, did we have and do we have gods that are still addicted to alcohol, drugs, and everything else? Yes. And do they need to clean themselves up? Yes. But how do they do it if they don't know how to get the help? A lot of them are so prideful, they don't want to ask for help. Right? And you can't be prideful when you need help. Help is help. You know what I mean? And you got to make sure that if you see a brother or sister that's fallen victim, as I said in the first part of this conversation with God, was that, don't be afraid to ask for the help. Ask for the help. Some of y'all need it. You know what I mean? Some of y'all need help and support from your brothers and sisters to get you to the next level. And the worst thing in regards to this question and why they did drugs with all this knowledge, because again, when Allah unfortunately became a martyr and got murdered in that elevator, brothers felt like, man, it's all over now. Now we don't have no one, we don't have a father figure, we don't have no one we could turn to now. So they turned to what they knew best, drugs, to escape their own pain. A lot of people were very, very shocked when Allah returned the way he returned. For what I gather, and then at the same time, some hope and despair was lost before we did the Christmas party in the desert. Right now, this is not taken away from Medina. It's not taken away from Pelon. It's not taken away from anyone. But you got to come through the desert, right? And you look at all the prophets and all the so-called messengers. They went through the desert to get right. You know what I mean? They had to come through the desert to get right. Moses too, by the way. Even Jesus had to come through the desert to get right. Now, is that saying that, well, Queens was the all in all? No, I'm saying that in Queens, there was a certain way that we live. We more middle class, upper class. Does not take away from nobody else and how they live. But Queens, in the neighborhood we were from, were mother and father was there, per se. You had, a certain environment that was better. Did we still have the drug game go on in the 80s? Of course. The Supreme Team is a total example of that. Brothers who had knowledge, was swift in knowledge, but they got caught up. And unfortunately, as I said in the bill that you did when you did an interview with me when I took you out there, when you came out there to do that interview prior to, for those who didn't see it, make sure you see it, Life of Law in the Desert, filmed again by the God Jarul. I took them to these various places. I even took them to our old school where we had a law school on 150th Road in South Jamaica, Queens, where we had the guards on one side and the drug dealers on the other side. And it was a big conflict back then. So, like I said, long story short, God, not to be too long-winded, is that I think a lot of it is a lot of the pain that they went through. You had some of the firstborn in Medina, they died of alcoholism and their liver messed up and their health deteriorated. And you may see some old footage on YouTube and things like that where brothers talking about health is key and how they fell victim to a lot of things. Even some of the firstborn, as I said, fell victim to the drug game. You know what I mean? As users, abusers, and everything else. What does that say about those who say they got knowledge? This is why, You know, when you go into the mosque, for those are in the mosque, the first thing they do is they clean you up and make sure that you ain't doing no drugs, you ain't selling nothing, you ain't doing nothing. If you do, you get punished. Right? There's a certain consequence that come with that. Am I saying that a lost nation also need to have that? Have some form of discipline that when you fuck up, excuse my French, or when you doing something that's not right and exact, you got to get corrected. Because babies are watching. The women are watching.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And unfortunately, some of these women, the earths, you know, like I said, have moved on to the mosque to find solid men. Men that's going to protect the women, not beat up their women and doing all types of things to the earth. So yeah, God. So like I said, you know, as it relates to that, I recognize that a lot of it has to do with internal pain. The sign of the times, they didn't have no other way out. And again, there's no real excuse. When you have knowledge of self, there is no excuse. You know what I mean? But the key is they got to get help. And I really acknowledge that they need help. Some of them need help right now because some of them are still doing it. You know, unfortunate to say.
Peace. All right. So this is a bill we we built on this a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
I was on the phone for 4 hours. So
yeah. Heavy bill.
It's a heavy bill right here. So I've heard some talks about, you know, certain brothers saying that Yakub is God.
Yeah.
Is God.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How do you see it?
All right, let's talk about the reality of Yakub. Remember, I'm going to think before I speak because this is a very, very funny subject. So I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to answer your question as we go through the answer and question period. The first time you hear about Yakub is when in your lessons?
First time you hear about Yakub, the wisdom and greed in the 1 and 10.
Which says what?
He was a colored man. And so the colored man is a Caucasian, so-called white man. Yakub's grafted devil to planet.
Yakub's grafted devil, meaning this person grafted something out of something. In our lessons, the first time I heard about that, which is in the wisdom degree, I asked myself, who is this Yakub person? And I had to think about it as I go through the lessons and go through the degrees and then start, you know what I mean? And then it said that Yakub grafted devil, meaning the colored man was a byproduct of this man's idea as it relates to the thought. When you say that Yakub, some say that Yakub is God, yes, he was a God, but a God of what? Evil. A God of dissatisfaction. A God of uncivilized motives and agendas, right? Now, how do we prove this? The second time you hear about Yakub is when?
The second time you hear about Yakub is culture degree 114.
Okay, we won't go too deep on that because we may not have time. But it speaks about him being who? The father of the devil, right? Okay, but they said that in that degree that he was an original man. Well, the original man, according to the student enrollment, is the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, father of civilization, and what? God of the universe. Right? Now, what universe is he the God of? What did he make? What did he own? What was his cream? What civilization was he the father of? Being the father of the devil, the devil's civilization, the devil's wicked thoughts, which is what we're dealing with today. All right, so when we talk about Yakub, and we talk about the 4 devils that we are taught to get rid of in ourselves, who are we really talking about here? Now, some would say, nah, God, Yakub was a man. Okay, so the only way that you can distinguish Yakub from yourself is that before you got this knowledge, what was your thought patterns? Was it true and living or weak and wicked? Some of the things that you might have done out there that wasn't right and exact until you got caught. And then you tried to justify it. So when we look at Yakub, the first thing we have to look at is how do you identify this individual? Who is this individual? What did he do? And then, of course, what did he promise his people he would do? Right? And he promised his people that he would make a people that was unalike. Unalike. Meaning the thoughts ain't the same as me or yours. So, you got brothers now, as I'm thinking about God, brothers who, as we used to say, the jive pretenders, right? And the wannabes claiming to be this, but have the characteristic of Yakub. Doing things like I was depicted, telling lies, stealing, trying to master the original man with his, I've been around this long, so you should follow me. Listen, when you get this knowledge, you follow no man. Many people come in the name of, but not in the mind of. And that's why if you ever see me at a rally, if you were lucky to see me there, I will never say my name is life. I say I come in the mind of life Allah, meaning I'm coming with a clear mindset so you can understand who you're dealing with at that moment. Because it got all these colorful names out there, and none of that shit means nothing if you ain't living it out. Now let's get back to Yakub, right? Because we got a lot of that going on, right? A lot of Yakubs in the midst right now, right? Now, when you go to the Bible, it talks about Jacob and his brother Esau. Esau was supposed to be given the birthright by his father Isaac. But who taught Jacob how to deceive the father? It was his mother, Rebecca. And that's in the Bible. Now, we know the Bible is not fully, historical facts. It's been tampered with, mixed and tampered with a lot of shit, according to the faggot King James, for all you Bible scholars out there from 1611. Now, when you start to distinguish between that and that, Yakub, it also says in the Bible that Yakub had his name changed to Israel. And then he became the father of the 12 tribes of Israel. What's going on with Israel right now, ladies and gentlemen? What's happening out there, right? So we have to begin to think about this Yakub on a whole nother level as it relates to his time in power, 6,000 years. But it took him 60 years to graft. But he was given 6,000 years to rule. To rule what? The earth, your woman. So when we're dealing with Yakub being a god, his followers, those who followed him and those who didn't, paid a serious price. The penalty was death for all those who did not what? Keep and obey Yakub's law. Right? Rules and regulations. That's what he deals with. Look what this devil did recently. Matter of fact, as of last night, he put out, I'm talking about, your president, Donald Trump. He's a lawless devil. And I'm saying that for all you people out there who voted for him. Devil, lawless, a crook, a felon. And he said that if Iran, don't comply to his rules and regulations, he is going to annihilate the whole civilization. He will kill all of them. Now here's the devil telling you in your face that he gonna kill a whole civilization. Did you hear what I just said? This is a president who just told you that he's gonna annihilate the whole the whole country. Now that's a Yakub for your ass right there. Because this man is the epitome of what a devil is. Yet some of you out there voted for him in the name of, he's my president. But yet you God though, calling a devil your God. But if you following him, of the dissatisfactions you might have, right? Then maybe out of the 59,000 or 999,000, you're one of them. You know what I'm saying? So Yakub is a god. He was an original man as it relates to the lesson that speaks on that, but yet he became dissatisfied with himself internally, and those who was dissatisfied followed him on that island right? The island out there in the Aegean Sea, for those who know your lessons. And there, he was given a penalty. He was exiled, right? So, was he a God? Yes. A God to who? His followers. A God of what? Pure evil. I hope that answers the question.
Peace. All right. So, based off the last bill we did, there was a lot of response.
Yeah, we got a lot of people responding to that bill.
Yes.
And that's just part one. You didn't put out part two yet.
Right.
Okay.
So let's clarify the distinctions between a Muslim and Allah's 5%.
Good question. Okay, so in the supreme wisdom, right? In our lessons, 120, as we just discussed, it talked about the student enroll, a student that's enrolling into a what? A classroom of study. What is this study? Well, first of all, it should be a civilized class. Second of all, it should be a class of righteousness. Third of all, it should be teaching you how to see yourself, as a man, as a woman, and as a young child growing up in a environment of true prosperity, right? Now, as I said before, in the 16th degree, it speaks about who is the 5% on the poor part of the planet Earth. It didn't say the whole Earth, it said the poor part, right? And in that answer, it says, answer, the poor righteous teacher who do not believe in the teachings of the 10%, who is all wise and know who the true and living God is, and teaches that the almighty true and living God, supreme being, black man from Asia, right? Who teaches freedom, justice, and equality to the human family of the planet Earth, otherwise known as civilized people, also Muslim and Muslim son. Okay, as I said in the prior bill, you have four people there, four characteristics there. The poor righteous teacher, the civilized person, the Muslim who submits his or her will to the unseen force that they say is Allah. And then you have the Muslim son who's from 35 to 50 years trying to be the original man, but he has a sword on his head. He ever revealed the secret that the black man is God, his head will be taken off by the sword. Now this brings me to a scripture, Matthew 10, verse 34, where it says, Jesus didn't come in the name of peace, he came with a sword. But what is the sword? The truth. So we have the Muslim son who, as he rises up in the Masonic law, says, Assalamu alaikum, put his hand on the Quran. So now we're dealing with Islam. Then you have the Muslim who's reading the Quran and says that he or she is submitting their will to an unseen force that he or she say is Allah. Then you have the civilized person. These are people who know, right, what time it is and acting somewhat civil. Then you have the poor righteous teacher. Doesn't mean that he or she is poor, but they're teaching those who don't have a clear concept of what rich means of knowledge. They're the ones who's teaching the poor. And if they're not teaching that the black man is God, are they 5%ers?
Right.
It tells you right there in the first part that this 5% who does not believe in the teaching of the 10% teaches that the black man is the supreme being. Right? So if the Muslim and the master mason or the Muslim son or the civilized person not doing that, they're not 5%ers. It's the 5% that's teaching that. And there's only one degree in our what? Lessons that says let the 5% teach. That's the 9th degree for those who may not know in the 1 to 40. Right? Let the 5%. Nobody else is supposed to be teaching according to that degree. Right? If you know your lessons, let the 5% teach. Now, who's allowing the 5% to teach? You don't need authorization to teach. You just go out there once you know what it is and add on to the bill and teach it. but you got to live it out. So you can't teach it if you're not living it. Truthfully, 25 hours a day. Don't forget the leap year for those that's caught up in the Gregorian calendar. You understand what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, God, when we dealing with the reality of a Muslim, this is why it is said, Allah said that we're not Muslims. We're not that, because if we were, then we'd be under the confine of another man's mind. So they, yo, God, well, you dealing with Allah's mind, right? You dealing with Allah? No, Allah gave us the ability to think for ourselves, right? Using a language that He learned in the mosque. And here's another thing, now that I'm on the subject matter, we're not taking nothing away on what Allah had to do to get this truth to us. Right? He went in that mosque for 3.5 years, learned what he needed to learn, and decided on his own, by his own free will and accord, to come out and give it to those who needed it the most. You didn't have to register to be a Muslim. You didn't have to go ahead and get, you know what I mean, ride the goat as a Masonic man to get this truth. It was his responsibility and his assignment, his mission, to come out to show you the distinction between a 5%er, a Muslim, and a Muslim son. Elijah was a master Mason. That's a fact, right? Y'all can look that up and research it yourself. Then he said he was a Muslim. Then you got Muslims over the east that said that Elijah and the people claiming to be Muslim are not Muslims. So what are they? Right? Had it not been for the messenger to deliver the message, we would have never got it in the message to the black man, which is the book that he put out. But who gave us the great understanding to the message? Allah the Father did that. Nobody else can take that type of credit. And he did it against the wishes of those in the mosque. That takes a hell of a man to take that type of risk. He put his life on the line so all of you out there, I'm talking about you, the ones out there, right, can get a sense of what it is to have sacrifice, to what it is to understand that this man gave his life. Now, we just celebrated Easter for all you Easter bunnies out there, right? For all you folks that like eggs, right? Getting caught up with the Easter, saying that some white man died for you and got nailed on a cross, right? What is the cross? The unknown factor. And what you don't know out there, for some of you anyway, who didn't do the research, that Easter was a paganistic holiday. We, the 5%, are not here to force this in your mind. All we here to do is to show you there are different classes of people out here. Some will lead you to religion. Some will lead you to a dead end. Some will lead you to a place of prosperity. Some will lead you to a greater purpose if you want it, but it's your choice. So when we talk about the distinction between a 5% and a Muslim, there is no real distinction. A 5%er is one who's going to teach the truth regardless to whom or to what. He or she is able to go across the threshold of the human diaspora and teach in a language that you're going to understand. Everybody don't know mathematics. That's why you're supposed to do what? Study the science of everything in life. So when you come amongst those things, you can what? Connect dots. Hence, have friendships in all walks of life. Right? But while you're here, make sure that you seat yourself at heaven at once. Meaning, you're supposed to be at peace with what you're doing. Right? As a 5%er. You're supposed to be at a place of certainty as a 5%er. And more importantly, as a 5%er, if you're not teaching that the black man is supreme being and that he is the God, then what are you teaching then? You're teaching a falsehood. According to that lesson, mind you. If you look into the lesson, it tells you what a 5% part is supposed to be doing. You know what I mean? Now, it doesn't speak on what the Muslim does it? It doesn't say who a Muslim is. It doesn't speak nowhere in 120 that it talks about a Muslim God.
right, so
Okay, I'm putting back out there again because I saw some brother read out of the Savior has arrived. He read a page which said that Elijah said there's Muslim gods. Well, in the original Supreme Wisdom, it never spoke about Muslim gods ever.
Right. I heard some dialogue where they were saying that his own self is a righteous Muslim, and they were trying to twist that.
Okay, listen. They
were trying to twist it to say there's righteous and then unrighteous.
Well, first of all, let's deal with the science of that righteousness, because we had talked about that in the last bill. There's two types of civilization, God. Right? There's righteous civilizations and unrighteous civilization, hence the double civilization. When we deal on the meaning of civilization, is one having knowledge, right? What else does it say?
Wisdom, understanding,
culture, refinement.
Not a savage.
Not a savage in the pursuit of happiness. If you say you have that, knowledge, wisdom, what? Understanding, culture, refinement.
Not a savage.
Not a savage. If you say you have that, then why aren't you using that? Some of y'all don't know how to apply that, which is why you're stuck on stupid. Okay? Now, some will take that as offense. If it's meant for you, it's going to hurt you. That's why some of you can't handle the truth. The truth is something serious. When you speak the truth, especially when you got folks out there living a lie. Okay? The truth is always going to hurt the liar.
Yeah.
But the truth shall set you free if you want to be free. Hope that makes sense.
Peace. All right, so we hitting the ground running right here.
Yeah, let's hit the ground running.
So, all right, so you get the knowledge of yourself.
Yep.
You become the God, right?
Allegedly.
You're in position now to take on the weight of the planet Earth.
Right? I just saw something about a sister talking about the weight of the planet Earth. So let's talk about that.
Okay.
Remember, I got to think before I say anything, right? Because once it's said, it's out there.
Yeah.
The weight of the planet Earth, 6 sextillion tons, a unit followed by 21 ciphers. What does that really mean? Has any of you actually weighed the planet Earth on your own? I'm talking about actually weighed the Earth. The answer is no. Right? So what are we using in the words of symbolisms here? That 6 is what we say is an inequality. Some will say it's equality. But what type of equality is it when it comes to the Earth and the weight? Well, we know her speed is 10.3713. Right? 1,037 and 1/3 miles per hour on her way around who? Around you. Now, if you add that up, 10.37, that means 10 and 3 and 7 is actually 20. She's trying to figure out your truth. But it's also the 10th degree in the 1 to 40. Are you the mystery God? Are you actually Allah in the earth and in the heavens above? Are you just and true? 37th degree, right? For all you scholars out there. If that don't match up for the truth, then you're the one with the said ability, a liability, lying about your ability. And the first one is going to test you on that is her. The 1-3 in the 1/3 is only 3.33 whatever. It's not a whole, right? But in that 1-3, she's trying to acknowledge and understand, but she's missing the bridge, the wisdom. She's trying to hear you, but your words ain't adding up. What you said ain't what you're doing. So now she's going counterclockwise to you, backwards, right? On a wobble, no less, trying to figure you out as the God. That's the distance. Let us get back to the weight. That 6, right, has a lot of things to this 6, right? Some would say it's an inequality. Some would say it's equality. Some say it was the way you balance things. But she's trying to cultivate you through her sex. She's trying to wear you out through the sex part. 6 sex. The till, she gonna put all her pressure on you to see how you carry it. Now let me make something clear for all you luggage bearers out there. First of all, you can't carry something that you didn't pack. Because some women be putting bricks and all types of shit in the luggage. Your back goes out and she wants you to carry it. Because you the God, right? My back went out since my spine. I can't move. My legs ain't working. Yet you like this. Trying to carry the baggage, you understand? The baggage of some shit that you got nothing to do with.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying out there? It's crazy right now. Now, if you don't carry it, you ain't a man. If you don't carry it, you ain't God. If you don't carry it, you not what I thought you was, God. First of all, y'all sisters got to understand something. We men got a lot of things that we deal with every single day. Y'all supposed to be our peace when we come home. Y'all supposed to be our refuge. Right? I'm not trying to come home to argument and all this other madness. I'm dealing with a whole lot of shit when I walk out that door. So that tillion you putting on me, to carry baggage I didn't pack, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. Take some of those stones out. Okay? Take some of those bricks out. Take some of that shit off. So when I do carry it, at least I can carry it and still carry my own luggage. All right, 6 sextillion tons. Tons, mind you. We ain't talking about lightweight here. So all you brothers trying to take on more than 3 and 4 women at a time, all praise is due to you if you can handle it. But I know most of you can't. I tried that. Notice I said I tried that. Didn't work out for me too well. Didn't work out. You know what I mean? You talking about, and here's the truth. I have 4 women with 6 babies. Okay, so that's 4 times 6 sextillion tons plus the unit. Now, how are you and I going to be in truth? How are we going to form a unit with that? 4 different mindsets I got to now figure out. Now I got 6 babies that's been influenced by the 4 different folks that I try to figure out. That's a lot of weight. That 21... What's 21 in your alphabet, God?
You.
Uh-oh. So that 21 is you because you chose that. Be mindful what you choosing when it comes to the weight of a woman. She may look good. She may even feel good. And God damn it, I hope she smell good. And if she ain't good, I'm talking about good for your well-being. Well, here's my answer to you. You better walk away from that. But do it right. You ain't got to do it malicious. Do it right. You know what I mean? So again, the weight of the earth is nothing to play with, is what I'm saying.
So what are like some specific characteristics one should look for when striving to find themselves on earth?
Remember, I said in the first bill, you're not trying to find the earth, right? You're striving to find a good woman. But you got to be a good man. I said you got to be a clean man. All right? A clean man with clean vision, straight thinking, a plan. You clear in your vision, and you got to be unselfish. So you don't look for a woman. You want companionship. You want someone that you can have a cooperation with, someone that you can collaborate with, someone that don't complicate you but complements you. So you got to be that. Remember, if you're the piece of the magnetic, you're going to draw the right thing to you. But if you're the piece without the magnetic, you're going to get a toxic side of you. And sometimes that's what we end up with. And then we're not satisfied with that. We're satisfied with the physical part, but not the responsibility that comes with that. So I would say, as we shared in the first part of the conversation with God, is to study her, really study and examine what is she coming with. Because remember, she has to be useful, according to the 7th degree in student enrollment, right? That's how much the original man uses, 23 million square miles. That's useful land. She got to be useful. And what areas she need to be useful? She got to give you peace of mind, not a piece of ass, because you might get shitted on. Okay? Let me say that again for all you who like to go down there. Okay? Now, we add a little humor to this, but shit is serious. Okay? Shit is serious. Right? Don't be going down to the Kulo area. Right? You know what I mean? For those who caught up in that, be careful. But the point I'm making is that we have to be really clear about the woman that we choose, just like the career that we choose, just like the people we surround ourselves. It's about what are we choosing that's going to make us better, right? I've had women who claimed to love me, but when the benefit was ran out or the money they ran out. When I got back on, they want to come back. Ain't no coming back with me. Once you gone, you gone. There's no second chance. There's no, but I thought maybe. No, you already played your hand. You wasn't there for me. You was there for what you can get out of me. And since you couldn't get out of me, you went someplace else. Stay there then. Go over there and stay right over there with that person or persons with an S. Right? Because they out here trying to shop around like this is fucking Walmart or something for men. Right, the best price, the best going through the shelves. You know what I mean? It's crazy. But yeah, God, all jokes aside, we have to be very critical when it comes to who we choose as our woman, who we choose as our mate. And now, again, like I said, you don't choose an earth, you choose a woman, and then you mold and shape this woman into. And now some women out there, some earth, like, what do you mean mold and shape? Oh, ain't nobody mold and shaping me. You know what I mean? Well, mold and shape don't mean that I'm now taking you and creating this plastic puppet-like woman. No, it just means that I'm giving you an opportunity to show you what is required to be with me, to exist with me, right? And if you exist with me in a place that's promising, now we can build a home for ourselves. And all real men, real gods, all we want is peace. Peace means, to me, talking about the God life Allah, personally elevating Allah's cultural existence. Meaning, if you're helping me elevate, evolve, if you're supporting me in my endeavors, I'm supporting you in yours. If you are bringing me substance, if you're giving me intellectual conversation that stimulates my mind, then that's the type of woman that I would like to have. I'm all for a woman who's culturally grounded. These modern day women, I'm not with all of that. You know what I'm saying? They caught up in the devil's world. And if you don't get caught in the devil's world, then they don't want you. Well, I will never submit to the devil's world ever. Ever. Do you hear ever? E-V-E-R, ever. Never. You know what I mean? Never, never, never. I will never do that. So a woman that you should at least consider is one who would listen to learn. You should listen to her too. But you're going to be the one that makes the final decision as the head of the household. Holding it together by having cooperation, consideration, collaboration, and a commitment that comes with together to get her. What am I trying to get her to see? Me. Me as what? As the God. So that's what I would tell you to look for.
Peace. All right, so let's flip it.
Let's flip it like a pancake now.
So, the earth is looking for God, right?
Maybe.
She's in a place where she's ready for that. And
perhaps.
What characteristics should she be looking for?
Great question, because you got to reverse the polarity now, right? Mm-hmm. So as I said, God got to be a clean man. I mean, take a shower, motherfucker. Take a shower. Because some of y'all be stinking. I'm only saying that to say this. When I say take a shower, I don't mean an actual shower with water. I'm talking about clean yourself from all the impurities that you came with. right? Before you get caught up with a woman, make sure you're not giving her no excess baggage that she got to carry, right? Because it goes both ways. You know what I mean? Some of y'all, you know, have a lot that y'all are dealing with, and y'all want this woman to figure it out for y'all. And that's not what this is about, right? You got to figure that out for yourself. Nobody wants a man that's weak. Nobody wants a brother who claimed to be something, but when he's outside, he's something else. When he comes home, he's something else. No, consistency. And that's hard for women to find now, is a consistent man who consistent in his morals and his standards and stuff. And you got to have standards. So now, what should the earth look for? What should the woman look for? A man who's stable in his mind. Right? He understands what his mission is. He's going after his career. He handles his responsibility without waiting around for someone to figure it out for him. The other thing is he's presentable, right? He knows how to articulate a conversation. He knows how to work that room, if that's the room he has to work. He's not a lazy man. He ain't sitting up playing fucking PlayStation all day. Excuse my French for you young babies out there that may be listening to this bill. Sometimes I get a little over the top with my conversation piece, because there's a lot of weak men out here, right? A lot of weak. Some of them are wearing dresses. Some of them are, you know, I don't know what they are. You know what I mean? A lot of weird shit going on with our brothers nowadays, and we gotta clean our brothers up too. So when a woman is looking for a man, she's not just looking for one to provide. She's looking for a man with purpose. A man who has the ability to stand on his truth and not fall victim to the dumb shit. She's looking for a man who has a plan of action. A man who's able to do what he say he's going to do. That doesn't mean that sometimes he may not be able to do it right then and there. You know, he got a lot going on. He'll do it. It just won't happen right then and there. But she's looking for that. So she should look for those characteristics, and she should ask him real questions when she's looking. Like for instance, I'm single by choice right now because, again, I'm not looking for an earth, but would I like to have one in my life? Of course. But she got to be right and exact, just like I got to be right and exact. And what does right and exact mean? Like I said, you got to be right in your motives and your intentions, and you got to be exact with what they are. You got to let her know, look, I just want to be physical with you. Is that okay? You got to let her know what that is. I'm looking to have an earth who's going to be my significant other, my companion. Are you willing to do that? Do you know what that requires? Do you understand the standards that I'm looking for? Right? All that, she's going to do the same thing with you. So I would say, God, you know, it goes both ways from the man and the woman to have standards. Right? You got to have standards, especially being God and being an earth. You got to have standards. That's just bottom line. If you go beneath those standards, then you're what? You're choosing less than what you're worth. Don't do that. Now, will it mean that it's going to be a little longer to find someone? Perhaps. But I'd rather take the long road than the short road and end up at the short end of the stick. Right. When it comes to a woman. You know, the women gonna do what they want to do. I'm telling you. And let me give y'all a quick story since we're on the subject matter of women. This is my first woman that I had in my life, the mother of my firstborn, Malik. I was so caught up with this woman. You hear me? This was a woman that I saw her on Jamaica Avenue back in the heyday. Everything was looking right. You know, that's the first thing we see. The mountains and the hills. You feel me? And I got drawn to that black equator and thought that equator was going to send me to the promised land. That equator put me in hell. I ended up going to jail, ended up almost doing some really, unfortunate to say, some serious things to her and the new guy that she ended up being with, because I felt betrayed. I felt all types of things at the time, and I was young.
What was your physical degree at that time?
I met her when I was 17. We got together right before I went in the military, so I was 18. 19, I'm now in the military. We're overseas in Germany doing our thing. We come back to the States. She has my son. I was 21. Back to 21. The weight of the earth, right? It was a hell of a weight, and I got totally caught up with so much and went to prison for. I didn't do a long bid. I did a short bid in Queen's House, nothing major, but I was on my way to do 25 to life regarding this woman. Luckily for me, she came to her senses and told the judge, I was just trying to teach him a lesson. Meanwhile, she had another brother's baby inside her, claiming that I abandoned her and my son, right? And I had to leave New York City, which is how I ended up in Los Angeles, right? I had to leave New York City because of what I was going to do to both of them. Now, when you get to that point, when you thinking about doing something that will cause you your life, that's a hell of a thing, man. So what am I saying? I'm going to give you a Belizean proverb now. Because I'm Belizean, right? My family's from Belize. This is what my grandmother told me. The sweetness of your dick will be the sour sauce to your ass. For all those who like to eat Chinese food. That's a real saying. Because what good is now can hurt you later. And that almost destroyed me dealing with a woman that I didn't know nothing about. And that's why you got to study every square inch of them. You got to really know who you're dealing with. Because you could be dealing with almost your worst enemy. This is the woman who had my first son. She became my worst enemy by putting me in jail for something she know I didn't do, but did it anyway. So it's just one of the many stories that I have, God, that we got to be mindful now about who and what we're doing, who and what are we doing with them as it relates to relationships, because some things are not relatable. Just not. Like I said, she may look good for the earth. He may look good, but he may not be good for you. And that's a really serious lesson that all y'all need to know. Peace.
All right. That's rough. All right, we switch gears a little bit. The question I always had when it comes to hip hop artists.
Yeah.
A lot of hip hop artists historically have been 5%ers.
True, to a degree.
Then we have some who just use the culture for their own personal gain.
True.
The question I have is, why does it seem that historically a lot of hip hop artists have been able to use our culture and get a pass for it without actually benefiting?
Well, you gotta remember, the 5% nation in all its entirety has influenced the world. Hip hop is a way of life. Rap is what we do in that way of life. Hip hop was a way to deliver a message through our fashion, through our swag, through our demeanor, and the conversation was direct. All this other gibberish we hearing now, that ain't had nothing to do with when we was coming up in the golden era. Most of the golden era we had was messages. And if you was a 5%er, you represented that message of the knowledge of self, being aware, being conscious. When we allowed, and I'm going to say this, I'm still in the music business. I still do a lot in the game. I play, a DJ, some will say that. But I'm mostly a consultant, especially when it comes to independent artists who think that they got a clue on what hip hop really is. The 5% nation has impacted hip hop so much, but we don't get the credit for the credit that is due. You have many who have been influenced by hip hop. When I say hip hop, I mean that way of life, and that way of life was street. That way of life was the 5%. That way of life was the way you did your hair, the way you stood up against the wall in your square, the way that you dealt with women, the way you dealt with brothers. It all was influenced by the 5%. Right now, a good friend of mine named Rocky B, who has now the Hip Hop Museum in the Bronx. And a brother that also is another brother that's doing some stuff with hip hop. I was telling them that y'all need to do a conversation with the 5% and how it influenced hip hop. When I first heard Rakim using metaphors, you thought I was a donut. You tried to glaze me, you know what I mean, and follow the leader, and paid in full. And the way he was saying it, instantly I knew, like, yo, this is going to change the dynamics of hip hop altogether. Because prior to that, we had a lot of local groups. We had folks in the Bronx. We had people doing basic DJ and MC and stuff through Cool Herc and the whole, Black Spades, for those who know what they were at the time, and many of the gangs and all of that. And the way that they were able to express themselves was those block parties. The DJ was the centerpiece, whereas the MC, the master of ceremony, was the mouthpiece. You know what I mean? But it was the 5% based upon the impact. Remember, we've been here since 1964. Hip hop just started coming around to like 1971 and onward and upward, right? So we've been here before hip hop. We've been here before rap. And what the rap we was giving you a rap attack based upon having the knowledge of yourself, right? So we have a major part, but do we own it? No. Now we supposed to be the makers and the owners, according to the first degree in student enrollment, but we didn't understand the business of hip hop. As I said, Queens, based upon Russell Simmons and Rush Artist Management and what we did back then, we managed a lot of the hip hop artists, but we didn't teach them the business of it. And that's where we fell short. You got brothers who wanted to come in and get deals and all these other things, but they didn't understand the nature of contract. They didn't understand the nature of many things. And this is why the knowledge of self is important, because you look at Wu-Tang, you look at many artists that, want to sound like them and want to be them or want to act like them or whatever. A lot of these other groups didn't get that type of fanfare that Wu-Tang got. But at the same time, you had the Killer Bees and you had the Sons of Man and you had all these other splinter groups coming from Wu. Right. But they didn't get the same recognition, right? As a lot of it is because, again, they didn't know the business per se. And then we had a lot of those people behind the scenes who gave them big money, but didn't give them the big leverage. You know what I mean? And that's where we fell short, in my opinion, that we did not get the substance of business and how it really works in that world. Nowadays, what we're doing now, I know for me being in law school, it's important that when I deal with an artist, I tell him or her the truth about the business, because many people want to be in the entertainment business, but don't know shit about the business of entertainment. And that's where I come in, So to answer that question, God, we as a 5%, we have made so many inroads to the culture of hip hop, and then now it's time to take it back and get in position to get our rightful place back in that.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, it's time now, because there's something going on in the atmosphere right now, God, where there's a resurgence of live bands and live musicians, and people want to have that interaction despite the AI shit going on. But you know what I realized, what they're lacking? They're lacking consciousness in it. And I, in my personal opinion, acknowledge that that's something that has to come back, because it went away when hip hop got commercialized to a point of no return. But hip hop and the 5% are one and the same.
I see that. All right.
Yeah.
So, we built a lot. We got a brotherhood.
Yeah.
Your history, how you came up.
Yeah. And by the way, I appreciate our brotherhood. I love you, brother. And I don't mind saying that on camera. No homo. For all you weirdos out there.
What's funny? is that I just dropped the video with Sia Kill when we did that bill.
Yeah.
Had the same exact conversation.
Yeah, ain't that something? Yeah, man, it's I'm saying that because back in the heyday of the 5%, the one thing that kept us together in the early 70s, 80s, and even maybe the 90s before we went to a continental drift, some of us, is that the love was very, very pure then. When I told my brother I loved him, is because, yo, when I got a meal, you gonna eat. If you need something, a place to lay your head, I got an extra bed or extra pillow, or maybe on the ground. You can't sleep with me, but you can sleep over there, right? Yeah. But at the end of the day, man, this is what's missing too. The love that we had as a nation, the love that we had as a community, the love that we had as a camaraderie of conscious people have been withered away. And we got to get back to that. You know, so I don't have a problem telling my brother I love him.
Peace.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
All right, so if you could sit down with your 16-year-old self,
oh man,
what would be some of the jewels that you would share with yourself at 16?
Man, so much happened at 16. Remember, from 9 to 16, I was in foster care. And as y'all, some of y'all know, and I think I might have told y'all in my last bill that the God, I think If Mega did not even questionable, If Mega did a bill with me years ago when I was at law school a few years back now, where I talked about a lot of us have gone through trauma and we need help. I was traumatized as a kid. And I don't mind telling you, I was molested as a kid. You know what I mean? Unfortunate to say. Nothing tangible where, you know, but enough that you know it wasn't right. And my mother and father was not there to help me. I was physically abused and beaten by the foster care parents. I kept switching from house to house to house. And at 16 is when, at that time, according to the Prevention of Cruelty to Children, which was an organization that I was involved in based upon what happened to me and my stepfather, who beat me naked with a stick. And they took me out of the house and put me in the foster care system. And then at 16, you was considered to be an adult. Now, at 16, according to our lessons, that's the age you are able to marry. Right? 16, for all you high scientists out there. So at 16, what would I tell myself of what I've endured? That's a really good question, God. And thank you for asking that question, because I have to think about it right now. I'm 59 now. A long time I've been on this planet. Yeah. Some will say it ain't that long. You're still young. Because 5 and 9 is only 14, God. You're only 14 years old. But at 16, I think I would tell myself, because I had knowledge then. I didn't know exactly everything about it, but I had the knowledge. Remember, I got knowledge at 15, so I was 1 year in. I would say to myself, what happened to me as a little kid, remember I was 9 when all this shit happened. I was a little boy, that it wasn't my fault. Because I blamed myself thinking that something was wrong with me. My stepfather truly hated me because I guess I looked like the man that brought me into the world. And every time he saw me, he saw him. And he took it out on me. Unfortunate to say, but that's exactly what happened. That's been some of my issues that I've had growing up. Being brutalized and being physically beaten and not know why, you know, and that eroded my trust. I think the other thing I would have to say to myself that it wasn't my fault, that I was old. I would probably tell myself that I should have loved myself even more, because I didn't know how to love myself. I didn't know what family was, because I didn't have that. I didn't know how to think about when I got older. Because when you're young, you're not thinking when you get older. You're thinking for that moment. So what I would tell myself at 16 was that, and I want to make sure I say this right. I would say to myself that all of us have a chance for redemption. All of us have an opportunity to make ourselves better when we put our minds to it. And what I would tell myself at 16 is not rush into anything that I'm not familiar with. Don't rush into anything. Now at 16, when I came out of the foster care system, I went back home to Queens. At the time, my stepfather at the time was still living, and me and him never got along after all of that, of course, and how could we? So it was a lot of tension between me and him, especially now that I'm older, the things he did to my mother, the things he did to my sibling, which was actually his children, but they were still my brothers and sisters. I didn't like it, and I confronted him on it maybe twice, and I felt that I was going to do something to him, like do something to him, like take all my pain and suffering out on him. And what I decided to do after reading about what Allah did in the sense of the military, I decided to enlist in the military to get out of there, not to run away, but to start my life over as a man. And that's where a lot of the manhood shit I learned, other than what I learned in Queens and in Brooklyn and things I had to endure. I learned how to be a man as a soldier in the United States Army. And that was a decision that I don't regret making. And I think at 16 is that I would have listened to my mother a little bit more. Although I didn't have a true relationship with my mother, I would have listened to her more, because although she went through a hell of a lot too that I didn't know until later on, that had I listened to her, some of the pain that I went through I wouldn't have gone through, even though she caused some of it. All right, because she was the first one to tell me, the woman that put me in jail, she told me to leave that woman alone. A lot of Belizean women, especially from the old era, they believe in spirit. If the feeling is not right, they're gonna let you know. My mother told me a long time ago I should have never got with this woman. She knew something I didn't know, and I had to find out the hard way. So I would probably listen to my mother more at 16 if I had to tell myself something more, listen to her, because there was no father figure to listen to. The father figures I had was Supreme Mind, Allah, Real, and many other oligarchs of the desert that I dealt with back then. And those were kind of like the people that were telling me, well, you should do this and you should do that. And I was on my hustle too. I sold my little things to try to get money and try to survive. And I did a lot of stuff that I shouldn't have did to try to eat. But that's what I had to do at the time. And when you're in that type of situation, and I'm not the only man or the only brother that's gone through these types of hardships. I'm quite sure there's tons of us out there who's been through. We just don't talk about it because, it makes us look like we weak or we soft. No, it's just that we went through something and we came out. And I'm a success story for those who acknowledge it or not, because I could have went a whole nother route with everything I've endured. But, Allah willing, and by the will of my own mind, I was able to rise above all that, Yeah.
Peace. All right. We're almost done.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that happened years ago.
Yeah.
But it was a pretty serious situation with the nation at the time.
Yeah.
Where the brother Saladin copyrighted the flag.
Yeah.
Based on what we've seen as of late, where people have been playing with the flag,
infringing on the flag and all that, huh?
Relating it to their own personal gain.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on what Saladin did at that time?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, just what are your thoughts on that?
Again, all praise is due to Saladin for his effort, and we're not taking nothing away from what he would say was his intention to protect our right of the bearers of the flag. But we have to factor in what Shamgar did, the creator of the flag. And at the time, that flag was not trademarked or copied. You can't copyright a logo. You trademark a logo. You register that.
Yeah.
Copyright is for songs and books and stuff like that. Trademarks are for signature pieces and logos and things that are distinct to your brand. What I think regarding Saladin is a good brother. He's a good brother. And he's well educated from his family, well versed. Got a lot going on in Niagara Falls for those young babies, which I salute to him for that. But in this nation, unfortunately, there's certain things called protocol and procedures. And if you're not taught that way, then you're liable to put yourself in a position that may be a little uneasy when you're dealing with those from the root. Now, I had the opportunity to talk to Saladin personally about this, and peace to the God, you know what I mean? If he's watching this, which I'm quite sure he will. And I've had a conversation with many others when we had our dialogue regarding this matter with a bunch of the gods and the earths. And I expressed to him then, and I expressed to him on that call, that when you register with the United States, although you may be the point of contact, they own it now. Right? Now, his intent was not to have anyone out there using our flag like they tried to use the flag on Hulu, and we know that wasn't the flag at all. They just made up something, I guess, because somebody might have mentioned that you got to license that to use it. But who are we paying? Who's going to get paid for the person that's going to inquire the license? Will it be Shamgard's family, since he's the actual owner and creator of that intellectual property? Is it the man Saladin who registered it under his name? Is it? And he said that he was going to register it and then relinquish it back to, I think, a law school youth center or one of the organizations that had to be built at the time. I don't remember off the top of my head. I think his intentions were good. I think the way he went about it might not have been the best. And what do I mean? When you have something like the universal flag, no matter what anybody else is doing, it's going to all come back to you, the individual, that you did this, though. Not what anybody else is doing. No, you did it. And what I was taught early as a guard, especially coming from the root, and when I say the root, I mean New York City. I'm not talking about Mecca where the Northern Wisdom was founded. I'm talking about the root where it was established, where it was put in motion, New York City. There's a certain way that you got to carry yourself in that. And that goes with the desert gods and earths, that goes with the Medina gods and earths, and any other sector in the 5 boroughs. When he decided to do that and then went the other way, did everything first, and then brought it back second, it created a floodgate of misunderstandings and all these other things, and to the point where people were very upset, especially the family of Universal Shamgard, all praise be to him. And I can understand why. Because it's just like I create something, right? I'm sharing it with everybody freely. But then another brother see that I'm doing it and try to infringe on it without even coming to me and asking me first. That's like somebody giving my number out without asking me. I'm gonna have a problem with it. Don't give out my number. Ask me first. And if I don't know who this person is, don't give him my number. I don't want the nigga calling me, period. Cause I don't, you know what I mean? There may be history there. You never know. But I think with that flag, man, that flag, although it's the only and greatest flag known in the universe, it's known everywhere. And people have been infringing on that flag, Amazon and everybody else. You know what I mean? And I was in Korea when I was stationed out there. I have a ring that I made, right? A universal flag ring that I made out there. They never asked me, well, who owns the license? They say, yo, give me the design and boom. Next couple of weeks, I got a ring. You see what I'm saying? So I think, again, his intentions was right, but the way he went about it, not bringing it to the body and let the body decide, or let the family of the Universal Shamgard decide, okay, brother, if that's what you want to do, let's make sure that we understand who's going to own, who's going to be the point of contact. If you're showing us how to do this, because maybe we never thought about doing it, well, thank you for showing us, and he'll be that point of contact to show you how to do it. But let them do it. Then bring it back to the body, right? Because there's no heads to this nation. We're all ahead. We're all leaders in our own right. If we know how to lead right, we're all leaders. But give the opportunity so that the body can vote, or the body can at least be aware. And to some, he did the shit kind of sneaky. He did it kind of malicious with his own agenda. I don't think that was his intent. But when I talked to him, I think it was his real thought to protect what he felt was ours from other people who might infringe. But like I told him, people been infringing that flag since day one. And Shem God, for what I understand, all praise is due to him, never said, I want to trademark that.
Right.
There's nowhere that I can find in my archives or any place else that he says that flag should be trademarked by anyone. But he's the creator of it. And his family and his children and his peoples, I'm talking about bloodline, are the successors and heirs to that. And they should have at least been given the right to know what that was before that was done that way. You know, there's a right way and a wrong way of doing things. Even if the intent was right, there's still a way that you got to do that. And I think that's what he might have not did the right thing on. But again, I appreciate his intention. I appreciate what he tried to do in his efforts. But he reversed everything. He got it unregistered. I think he gave it up to somebody. I'm not sure who that person or persons are. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on that.
Okay. All right, so a couple more questions.
Sure. Keep bringing them. Let's talk about it.
I heard DJ Clue, which we know DJ Clue's a prominent DJ.
Yeah, Desert Storm.
Right. He recently said hip hop music might be doomed. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think hip hop is doomed. I think hip hop will evolve to something else. Just like anything else, you know, everything is subject to change. Nothing remains the same. You don't have hip hop talking about hip hop, the hip hop. You're not doing that type of rap no more. It evolves. Yeah. Now, hip hop from his standpoint, from his era, yeah, it's pretty much done. Is it dead though? No. Hip hop is a major commodity producing billions of dollars. But not for the creators of it, for the distributors, from the owners of labels, for the people who have the money. And they give a lot of us who have no money, 50 to 100,000. And what the first thing we do? We want to go buy diamond teeth. We don't want a diamond mine, mind you, but we want diamond teeth, and we want a diamond ring, and we want a diamond necklace. And I'll be like, are y'all out of your rabbit ass minds? Take that same money and invest in a diamond mine. Take the same money and invest in the label that gave you the money, because some of them are actually able to buy shares and stocks. That's how I think. I think that way. I don't think I got to have the fancy car. Right now, I will give you a story about hip hop is doomed. I come from the era where Queens, we had a certain way in how we looked. Our sneakers was Pumas or Adidas, or our tracksuits were Adidas. That was the signature piece for Queens, right? You got Adidas on, you must be from Queens. You know what I mean? You got Pumas on, you must be from Queens. So we had a certain way about us. So is hip hop the culture doomed? It's only doomed if you allow it to be doomed. You know what I'm saying? Now, what is hip hop today? It's something different. You know what I mean? But is it still hip hop? Yeah, it's still a culture, but we don't own it.
Right.
And we have to get back to the ownership of it. We got to start knowing how to conduct ourselves in business. It ain't about having gold teeth and you're doing it. No, because that's not presentable in a business setting. Right? So you got to know how to do business in hip hop. So I think maybe what he's saying is that the business of hip hop and how it's being done and handled is doomed. And I would agree with that. But is hip hop doomed in the sense of it's over, like on some doomsday? No, it's only going to evolve. And those who understand how to use AI as a tool with it, how to use, the brother right now, he created a AI character called, I think it's I forgot her name, Satasha Santiago, AI figure. Right, my man Livio Harris.
Signed it?
Yeah. They signed her. Livio Harris. That's my brother out there doing great things in the AI world. You know what I'm saying? And he created this artist out of AI. She's not real, but if you look at her, you would think that she is real. Right? In the movie The Matrix, the Morpheus talks about how we marveled at our magnificence in the world of AI. So are we in the Matrix right now? Yeah. We definitely in the Matrix. You might want to go watch that movie again and look at what's happening and then compare your notes. But is hip hop doomed? No. Hip hop will evolve with us. It will evolve when we're no longer here. And the question is, who owns it? Who owns it? And if it ain't us, that's the problem.
All right. Now this is gonna be controversial.
All right, here we go. Here we go with some controversy for you folks out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thoughts on
Yeah.
rappers being 50, 60, and still rapping about some of the they were rapping about.
Yo. Oh man, listen, man. I'm 59 years old. I was a rapper at one time and decided that my forte was business. That's what I'm good at. I love, going in, negotiate. Let's talk about how we make the money. Let's make moves. There was a point, and I have no problem saying this. For some of you may feel some type of way, but you know what? If it is what it is. Truth is the truth. I look at a lot of the rappers now, some of the young, some of the old, some that I know that are still rapping. You know what I mean? You got to do what you love, man. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter the age per se. Now, the shit that you may be talking about may be outdated.
There we go.
It may not be something that we want to hear right now, because that was the shit that we did yesterday, right? But, as you grow older, man, in this thing called, life, there's one thing that you come to grips with. You only got one life to live. So live your life, man. If you want to be 70, walking on stage, holding your nutsack, talking about, yo, everybody say, ho. You know what I mean? If that's what you want to do and somebody's willing to pay for it so you can eat, go ahead and do it. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not going to be on stage talking about everybody say ho, ho. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to say no every time. But there was a point where I had some reservations about that, because I felt that, in the name of being an artist, you have a certain time to capture what it is that you came here to do as an artist. Right? Artists have a certain time span. They do, unless you have one of those artists like our catalog artists, like your Michael Jacksons, your Jimi Hendrix, and your Beatles, where it impacted the world. And the next thing you know, here come Christmas, and now you got the best of the Beatles. Now, there's some rap artists that I grew up with that I would say the best of LL Cool J, because he lived down around my corner. I probably would listen to that because I grew up on it. The best of Run DMC, the best of Rakim, the best of Stetsasonic, the best of, you know what I mean? The best of, who would I say? Who else is it, in our era? The best of Tribe Called Quest.
Say Tribe.
The best of, De La Soul. That was my era. That's the golden era I grew up. That's the golden era that I worked in. That's the music industry that I worked. So I will always look for that, because that played a part of who I am. The best of Public Enemy. These are the groups that I grew up with. These are groups that changed my thought patterns on how I see the world. Excuse me, the stuff that's coming out now, the stuff that's out now, am I going 10 years, if I'm still here, 20 years, am I talking about I want the best of that? No, hell no. The stuff that's out there now, I can't even describe it. And it's always changing, right? They got the copy and paste, where now you got the trap music, now everybody want to be trapped. Now all of a sudden New York want to do trap music. When did New York City ever do trap music? And we the home of hip hop,
right.
The foundation of hip hop. You can't be trying to be something that you not. Stay New York.
Yeah.
That's what makes us. New York City all day, right? If everybody want to go down to the South and want to, drive Cadillacs all day, then go down there. You know what I mean? But that's for them.
Yeah.
That ain't for New York. You know what I mean? Just like on the West Coast. Now everybody want to have braids. Like, yo, bro, when the last time was you wearing braids? Now you want to be, you know what I mean? It's like going back to the Jerry curl. Yeah, you feel me? Yo, you mean the West Coast got their own thing.
Yeah.
That's what make them them. Don't try to mimic them. That's like with the gangs. How all of a sudden, now remember New York City did have gangs.
Right.
But now all of a sudden we got Bloods and Crips and, yo, bro, that's for the West Coast. We had crews back in my heyday, crews and, family and things of that nature. Where I'm from in New York City, stick to that.
Yeah.
But again, the mind can be so weak that it'll follow and mimic what they think is popular. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I got to do this because that's what's right. That's what's happening right now. That's the copy and paste syndrome. That's a disease, right? That you got to copy and paste something in order to be accepted. Stop that shit. Now that's what's dooming hip hop. You trying to be other than yourself. Mm-hmm. New York, stay New York. Okay? West Coast, stay West Coast. You think they trying to mimic New York and the West Coast? Nope. They are straight diehards when it comes to their way of life. They're not changing for nothing. They'll leave the West Coast and still be West Coast when they go down to Canada or somewhere. You know what I'm saying? You feel me? So what I'm saying is, when we talk about hip hop as doom and all these other things, we got to stay to who we are and what we were made for. You know what I mean? What we were made of. And then you got to be authentic. We know if you're real or not. You ain't got to force your realness. If you real recognize real. But if you fake trying to be real, that's a whole nother thing. And you're going to be found out real quick. Yeah. Look at your man who just got booed the other day. What's your man's name? What's your man?
JJ
Electronica got booed, right? And why did he get booed? Because he told his fans to shut the fuck up. Now, how do you tell your fans, shut up and listen to my lyrics? Nigga, ain't nobody trying to hear your lyrics right now. We trying to get the vibe of the music.
Right.
The music first, the lyrics second. Now, if you got some swag and you got some style of speak that I want to listen to, then yeah, give me a little acapella now and again. But don't go out there and chastise your fans, because they're the ones that made you in terms of your popularity. And trust me, fan base, peace to Isaac Hayes 3, who got the fan base app and doing great things with the fan base. Your fan base is your meat and butter. And when you screw them over, if you think that you're more popular than the music, you're done. If you think that the fans is going to be caught up with nonsense, you're done. It's the fans that come and see you. It's the fans that buy your music. It's the fans that buy your merchandise. It's the fans, right? Those loyal fans. Look what happened with Yeezy. 3, 4, 5, whatever thousand people came out to see Yeezy and his daughter stand on a globe. Right? Fans, loyal.
In the midst of all this content.
In the midst of all the nonsense, they still came out to see him. And here you got this dude, Jay Electronica, disgracing his fans because they didn't want to hear what he had to say. So that type of mentality is doomed, right? Don't never bite the hand that feeds you.
I think a good example of an evolving hip hop artist,
yeah,
is Nas.
Nas is very Queens, by the way, for all those who don't understand, right? We got another brother too that's coming up, and I don't mind saying his name. Northside Lord from Hillside Avenue, Northside, doing good things out there. I'm giving him his plug because a lot of times we don't give artists that are actually going against the grain. He's competing with a lot of craziness, but he's standing out too because he has a signature style similar to the Griselda boys out there in Buffalo, but a little different in terms of how he delivers his message. And it's catching on. But yeah, Nas is definitely one who's evolved. He was the one who had a record called Hip Hop is Dead. But now he's a businessman on another level. Got a casino that's getting ready to rock and roll in Queens and making moves.
We got more music from him the last.
You feel me? Yeah. Right. So that's what I'm saying. Hip hop can only evolve to the next level. And now a lot of those brothers who came in from the hip hop, now they're taking their business to another level. And that's how you grow. You can't stay in the same position. It's like with this knowledge. You get this knowledge, God, you're supposed to be taking it to a whole nother level. Like I got businesses now. I have a small boutique business called High End Me. Yeah. All right, good segue, right?
Yeah, segue right into that. Boom.
All right. So what's your questions on that?
Okay, so you got multiple businesses.
I do. Thankful for it.
From various different, from entertainment to food.
Yeah.
Give a rundown of each of your businesses. And,
Well, thank you. But thank you for the plug. Man, I think for me, I've always been a business orientated type of a guy. I've always wanted to have my own business, and then, of course you work and you learn, and then you say, wait a minute, you hired me to do this shit. I need to be doing this for myself. So I have a business, a small boutique firm called Hemp, High End Media Partners. We specialize in entertainment strategists type work where we help you with your strategy and helping you get your name out, your music out. And then of course, with me going to law school, I'm also a legal consultant because the business is ran by legalities, it's ran by contracts, it's ran by licenses, and it's ran by relationships. And so what I try to do is everything I learned working for labels, I've applied that to my own business now. I also, I'm a resident DJ. Some would call me a DJ, but I'm not.
Stay right there.
Okay.
Before we go to that.
All right.
So you mentioned your business.
Yeah, High End Media Partners.
Why do artists today need your business?
Sure. First of all, we are in the do-it-yourself, or I can do it myself. I don't need a team. You need a team that know what they're doing. You need someone who's seasoned in the areas of music or in the areas of entertainment that is going to make you get paid for the long term. It's not the short term. You need someone like me because even with my motto, hemp, creativity on the higher note. Well, what is this higher note? Well, the notes can mean money. The notes could be higher levels of learning. It also could mean higher levels of opportunity. We have a whole world out there that can be, tapped into based upon what you bring in and how it's being presented. Yeah. So for me, being a person who has created labels, who've worked with prominent artists like Erykah Badu and, Rod Kim and many others, I feel that I have the ability to help support independent artists and get them to the next level, but they got to be ready, willing, and able, right? And stable, right? We got a lot of artists out there, don't have tons of money, don't know what to do, may become millionaires overnight based upon the popularity, don't know how to manage their monies right. They don't have, say, life insurance. They don't have certain things when they get older. Like a lot of our hip hop artists don't have a lot of that stuff in place. Right, and they're dying off with not having insurance, not having medical things that help them as they get older and ailments that take place. So, for a company like me, High End Media Partners, the idea was to be a hands-on entertainment strategist firm that give you the legal insight that you need to make the proper decisions. Right, I've been very mindful of what clients I take on because everybody is not ready to do what's required as a partnership. Remember, it says high-end media partners. Mm-hmm. I'm not here to hold your hand. I'm here to do business as a partnership. You play your part, I play my part, so we can collectively win. But then you have those who think they can do this all on their own. Then they make crazy mistakes. They make decisions that they shouldn't make.
Tied into a contract.
They don't know how to interpret the contract, what it means, be it TV, film, music, touring, sponsorship. They don't know nothing about that. And maybe some do and some don't. But a lot of it are in it for the quick money, but don't understand the rationale of what it means to sacrifice for the business. And you gotta be thirsty. And I'm not saying thirsty where you're doing shit over people's heads, but you gotta be thirsty enough that you want to drink alkaline water, not tap. Right? And what do I mean by that? If I may explain it, alkaline and tap. Alkaline water gives you energy. Tap water gives you disease and problems. So we got a lot of people that's caught up in people in the business that are tapped, but they're not alkaline. You know what I'm saying? In other words, they're not giving them the truth about the business. And I just had a big interview that I did on the CEO of music publishing in Ghana. Her name is Diana Hobson, for those who may not know who she is. And we had a good conversation in regards to the business of Ghana. She had me participate in a one-day event where I talked about management to a lot of the Ghana artists out there in the motherland. What that showed me was that there's a need for me, not just here domestically, but around the world. So you got to think about that. I have a contact now in Ghana. I have a contact in Japan. I got a contact in Thailand. I got a contact. Okay, how do I make that contact win? I got to bring something to the table. If that's the right artist. Hip hop is major overseas.
Sure.
I'm like to the 50 extreme.
Stuff that we grew up on.
Right. Shit that we grew up on, they still singing it to this day as if it just came out yesterday over there. But they appreciate our music, our way, better than sometimes we do here. Yeah. And so, as you say, for a need like me, a person like me, I think that I bring a lot to the table. I think I bring a lot of expertise to the table, a lot of know-how, and I think I bring a lot of legal leverage to the table. Now, I'm not an attorney. I was going to do that, but I changed my mind. I don't want to be restricted under my practice. I want to be able to be flexible, but I want to be able to speak legalese so they can understand that I know exactly what they're talking about in terms of negotiation. And that's what hemp is all about, taking things to a high end. And, that's what we're doing, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
The best way to get with you as relates to hemp
is you can go to my website, highempartners.org, or you can check me out on my IG, Hemp Partners, and you can catch me there. If you're really serious, right, I've had some artists who have reached out to me, and when it came down to, okay, let's talk about the bottom line, they want to give 15 million excuses. If you that person, don't waste your time calling me, because there's no freebies out here. Right, my time, my energy, and my effort, what's left of my life is worth something. It's valuable, right? Valuable not just because I'm saying it. It's just because that's just what it is. So don't waste my time if you're not really ready to get down and get dirty when it comes to this work. And I don't mean doing dirt. I mean get in the mud and let's get busy. Let's work. But if you're not ready to do that, don't waste my time. But if you are ready to do that, I'm willing to get dirty with you. Let's go. Let's make things happen. Let's have a conversation. Now, there's another part of my business that I have with my son, Justice. My mother passed away, and unfortunately, in the beginning of that COVID mandemic, because they put it all together, these devils out there. And as a testament and to honor her, I created a small catering company for Belizean food that my son runs, called ABC, Amanda's Belizean Cuisine. He's doing extremely well here in Long Beach and in places like Los Angeles, where he's done some pop-ups and everybody loves the food. So I'm teaching my son not to wait for a misregard to bring him food. He's now in his third year, soon to be a senior at Long Beach State. And I'm teaching him that when you come out, you may not be able to find a job, but you can work for yourself. People need food, and good quality food, fresh food that we cook right out the kitchen the day of. And everybody loves the oxtail. Everybody loves the stewed chicken, the coconut rice. And he's doing very, very well. And I'm thankful for that. So I run that, and I'm a founder of that with him. And then I do some other things with my fraternity. Brothers may have an issue with that, but I don't care what you got an issue with. Friendship is all walks of life, if you understand, right? So I'm the founder of Veterans in Omega, which is an initiative I put together here in Los Angeles with my fraternity, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, and helping my fellow veterans to get the things that they deserve, especially minority veterans. When I was a legal administrative specialist for the VA, I did a lot of stuff for veterans and found that there's two types of veterans. There's the black veteran, the minority veteran, and there's the white veteran that you see every day. And there's nobody working on behalf of the military veteran. Minority, I mean. So I chose to do that as another part of my way of helping and serving those in the community. So I'm involved with a lot, and I'm in law school. I'm doing a lot, which is why I don't have time for foolishness. And I definitely ain't got time for a woman who ain't ready to build and add on to build a real home. You know, so for all you women out there, right, I'm not searching for you, but if you're ready to build and if you're ready to, you know, add on, maybe there's a discussion we need to have. But make yourself known and don't be no mystery earth. I just throwing it out there for fun, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean?
Don't forget about the DJ aspect.
So people say I'm a DJ. I'm not a DJ. Let me make sure I clear that. Who? What's that guy?
You're not what would you call yourself?
A hempologist.
Hempologist for hire?
Yeah, I'm a hempologist for hire. What does that mean? So when I do play out, and I just played at the Woods, which is Woody Harrelson's spot up in Hollywood just a few days ago. I did a set out there, a music set. I play a lot of house music and R&B and hip hop, depending on what people want. But I don't consider myself a DJ. The reason why I don't is this: the DJ title is so powerful that you don't play with that. Right? The DJ was the center, as I said, the nucleus to it all. Because he said or she set the tone of how those people felt in the crowd. The MC was the voice piece of that thing. Right? So it would be disrespectful to call myself a DJ when I'm not that. But what I am, though, as I said, I'm a hempologist. What does that mean? I heal everyone musically with a purpose. Hemp. You know what I mean? And since we know that cannabis in its rightful use years ago, before they switched it to prohibition to control it, was a medicine. The ancient ancestors, even when you look at the Egyptian monuments, you'll see that the pharaohs and the queens of Egypt had the cannabis plant in their hand. So we call that the tree of life. I actually helped my son in his cancer fight, Justice, with cannabis oil, because it ended up destroying the cancer cells that was in his body. Of course, we can't say it actually cured him, because then that would create a whole nother problem for folks like me who have used natural remedies to help support certain sicknesses and illnesses with the cannabis plant or the hemp plant. But the reality is that I'm not a DJ. I'm a hempologist, and I heal people with music, you know, through sound. And that's my therapy from when my mother passed. That was what I did to help myself use music as my means of therapy. Even when I was going through what I was going through as a young kid in the foster care, music was my out. Kind of like, so I'll give you another joke, right? So as a young man, I had a way with girls. Right. And one of the things I did when I was a young man is that the movie Prince, the Purple Rain, came out. And I connected to him in so many ways based upon the abusive home that he was in. That was the home that I was in with my stepfather and my mother, and the way my stepfather dealt with my mother was just like that. Then he had a basement that he would go to. I also had a basement that was my place. But when I brought girls there, I would marinate them through music, to lights, and I switched the whole room to purple. You know, purple is royalty for those who don't understand. So they was in my royal kingdom. And after they came into that kingdom, they didn't come out the same. Let's just say that. But no, all jokes aside. But yeah, so music has always been my means to, and then even now, as I've gotten older, music and the study of music and understanding the philosophy of music and what it did, we were all created through sound, right? Procreation in the name of, oh, it sounds so good, and I'm coming, right? Sound. right? The feeling, right? I got a way with words, y'all. You'll probably figure that by now. I got a way of how I explain things, right? We add a little humor sometimes because that's important. But yeah, man, so sound and creation and the whole frequency, energy, and vibration is how I heal people when I play my music, you know what I mean? And so I do that as another part of what I do as an extension of me. Hope that the people like it, which people do. And I've been fortunate enough to be a self-starter and a self-learner. Although I've been taught by mentors over the years, and also my uncle, the one who taught me how to listen to music through vinyl in in the early '80s in Brooklyn. That's another way that I express myself through what I do in music, in my spare time,
Okay.
So yeah.
Our last question.
Yeah.
We'll leave it with this one.
Yeah.
This will be a powerful one.
Okay.
What are some indications that we're living in the
last days? The end times? The end times, Armageddon?
That we're living in the book of Revelation.
Ooh, okay. So that's a good question. In our lessons, we talk about Revelation 1:9 about John being our companion on the island of Patmos of the testimonies of Jesus Christ. What is the testimony of Jesus Christ? Jesus Christ, ladies and gentlemen, was a 5%er. Now, how do I prove that? Right? We teach that the black man is God. What we teach you is how we show you that we God. Right? That's the best way to teach you, by showing you and then expressing it. Well, this black man, and it's in our lessons about Jesus, who was a prophet, and how they use Christianity to do the dirt that they do. He never taught Christianity. Now, you prove that by the Gospel of Thomas, when he talks about in the first 7 scriptures, it talks about these were the secret sayings of the living Jesus that his brother Thomas Didymus wrote it down. And he speaks about having the knowledge of yourself, that you got to know yourself, and you got to know that you are the sons of the true and living Father. What? Now, this was a document or documents that were found in a cave in Egypt in 1945. We got our lessons July 30th, what? July 4th, 1930. Almost maybe 14 years later. However, that manuscript was there maybe hundreds of years prior, and this is what was written in it. So we know that this truth that we speak about has been around way before. It just hasn't been exposed to the population. Now, what's that got to do with the book of Revelation? Revelation means to what? Expose, to reveal, right? In the book of Revelation, it talks about what is currently going on right now as we speak. If you read the book and understand the symbolic meanings behind what it's telling you. The G10 nations, or the what's in that book, it speaks about that. It talks about how there's a lawless man that's currently on the scene who would talk about peace, but he would create war. Well, that's your man Trump and his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, right? Just bought the 666 building in Manhattan. Been coming out of the tribe of Dan. And now, if you remember the movie The Omen, right, about Damien, he was a political figure, right? Created and born from what we call a jackal, a beast. The car that Trump rides is called the Beast, right? This man is lawless. It speaks about him, about being an abomination. That when you see him in Jerusalem, which he was there, that you know that the time is at hand. Now, I'm not religified, by the way. However, that book has some truth to it, right? The Holy Quran have some truth to it too, right? And you got to look at both books because it tells you that in the First Degree and the 1 to 40. Who wrote, some would say, who made the Holy Quran or Bible, how long ago? And will you tell us why does Islam renew its history every 25,000 years? Well, how do you renew history if it's already past tense? You learn from history right? So you ain't renewing nothing, but you're establishing a pattern of things that had happened before, and you see it's happening again now. Revelation 1:9. 1:9 to us is self or savior, right? Ain't no one coming to save you. Ain't nobody coming out the clouds and a chariot talking about, oh, I'm ready to come and get all you guys. We're going to go to another planet. Now, let me be honest about something, though, right? There's a lot of things that we still have no clue about when it comes to this world. A lot of things that have been hidden, a lot of things that have been erased, if you want to call it that. A lot of things have been destroyed in terms of real history. Hence, the Iraq War was because they found some serious things over there that dealt with humanity, right? Okay, now we're dealing with the war of Iran. Isn't it interesting that here is what, as I said earlier, this lawless man is saying that he gonna wipe out a whole annihilation if they don't allow oil to pass through. So all this is in the book of Revelations, even with the economic system getting ready to go to hell. No more money, cashless society. You won't be able to buy or sell without receiving a mark. Well, what is this mark? It's an idea. Didn't Yakub have a determined idea? Okay, well, what was Yakub? The father of the devil, right? We talked about that earlier. So here's a devil now that's been exposed, considered to be a beast, considered to be a lawless individual who's doing things in the name of peace, but yet he's bringing war, right? You look at our economic situation right now. The gas prices are going up. Food prices, which they now have human DNA in it, going up. Oh, good. We have the young man here. My son just popped in, so maybe he'll sit down and do a little conversation with you too, because I did tell him that the God's going to interview him, right? Yeah, all right. So, yeah, so the book of Revelation is real, man. And here's what's so interesting about that book. Years ago, and this is no spookism, but this is exactly what happened to me. Years ago, I got a message. Where did this message come from? I could not tell you. And this is not no spook, but it actually happened to me. I think, where was I? I think I was in the military, where I was at. The message that came told me to take the book of Revelations, copy it, and give it to everyone that I saw and explain it to them. Now, of course, you be like, yo, God, what is this God on, yo? This brother's talking crazy. He's talking about some message came out of nowhere. Sometimes when you are chosen, we say those who choose themselves. Sometimes you're given the gift of discernment. You're able to see things. This knowledge, by the way, will make you see things that the average person can't see. It'll make your thoughts expound so much that you're able to predict what's going to happen next. That's how serious this knowledge is once you get really involved in it. That's if you choose to get involved in it. And that's how we're able to predict our history in advance. We're able to tell you exactly where we're going to be 5 years from now if we do it right. So this book of Revelations, which is in our lessons, you need to read it. Don't just go on what it just said about John being your brother in tribulation. Understand what the tribulation really means right now. Some of y'all are in tribulation. Some of y'all are in trouble, right? Based upon planning. So I read a lot, God. I read a lot, but I don't go out there and regurgitate just what I read. I study what I'm reading and try to connect dots to see if what I'm reading makes sense to what's going on currently right now, in the now. And
another question I had. I know I said this was my last question.
Yeah, well, we got probably 15,000 more after this one.
But I was gonna ask you, like, what are like 3 books that really impacted you in your growth and development?
The book of Revelations, the book of life, and I would say, well, man, you said 3. Well, I got so many.
Right. We go on.
Yeah. I got so many. I would say the book of Revelations is definitely, without question, because again, I was able to connect the dots of what's currently going on early. The book of life, 120 lessons, without question, because although it came from the mosque, it is the mathematics that allow me to see what the lessons are really telling me. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about anybody else. I'm telling you, when you use the language of mathematics and you know how to interpret those lessons properly, it comes out with a whole nother meaning other than what Eliza answered. Okay, it's a whole nother dimension. And I would say the third book, if I had to say, and I got many of them over there, I want to say, damn, I want to look over there because I have so many over there. I would say that the third book in my life, from reading it,
So if I could bring it.
from the reality as a young God up until now, I would have to say it's. Do I got it right here? I think I got it right here. Oh, here it is. Here it is, right here. Coming up, reading and learning. Powernomics.
Powernomics.
Yep.
What's that about?
The Empowerment of Black America by Claude Anderson. Talks about the finance. Talks about the economy. Talks about how we have to understand finance. One of the things that the Caucasian man didn't do, two things he didn't do. He didn't teach us about finance. He didn't teach us about legal realities. He created all that for himself, for his own personal gain. So again, the Book of Life 120, Powernomics, and what was the other one I said?
Book of Revelation.
The Book of Revelations. Yep. Those three books, on top of all the other books that I have here that I've read, and many other books that I don't have here, I have in my garage, were impactful to me.
Yeah.
Because I know that without money, there's no honey without money. And that shit ain't funny.
Right.
When you ain't got $1. Right? I think the Book of Revelation, it gave me the ability to see beyond the average. I'm able to see. I told my kids what was going to happen before COVID-19 happened.
Yeah.
And I was able to share that with you and many others, how to get out of not taking that shot. Which I'm so glad that we did not take it.
Right.
By using proper protocol, procedures, and making sure that we was under our rights to do what we did. 120 lessons, man. I can't be thankful enough on what 120 has done for me based upon my application of it.
Yeah.
Now, some take 120 on face value, regurgitate Elijah's answer and think that's it. No. You remember, it's the Book of Life. You're still dealing with 240 degrees that's missing. The unknown cipher, the unknown situation, the unknown realities. And when you combine that 240 to 120, you get 360, understanding your equality in every cipher. Understanding how you got to make it born in every cipher and be the Lord of all the worlds in every cipher. And 120 allowed me to do that. Now again, as I said earlier in the prior bill, I didn't start teaching this until I was 30 years old. When did Jesus start teaching?
30, right?
30 years old. Right now, am I saying I'm the new black Jesus, like some will say? No, I'm not the new black Jesus. You know what I mean? I would never take on another man's name. I'm life. I'm gonna be life until my dying days. You know what I mean? I heard somebody call another man daddy. Yo, the moment you call another man your daddy, something's not right. Okay, I don't care how you figure it out. You don't call another man your daddy. He may be your brother, he may be your mentor, he may be your educator, but calling another man your daddy, something ain't right with that picture. And I've heard a lot of brothers talking about, yeah, my daddy said this. My son don't even call me his daddy.
Right.
that I'm his daddy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? My son don't even do that. You see what I'm saying? So be mindful of that. You know what I mean? And those that do that, you might want to consider changing your vocabulary. You call another man your daddy. You know what I mean? I've heard that a lot of times in our nation. I even heard Allah Real say that. You know, my daddy told me. I'm looking at him like, who? Justice C was your daddy? You know what I mean? Like I said, there were some things I didn't agree with.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to this here, because again, this is supposed to make you stand up and be who you came here to be.
Yeah.
And not be a follower of men, but be a man who follows righteousness and follows his purpose, not another man. You know what I mean? Which I've always had a problem with. Brothers following brothers and waiting for brothers to do something. No, you don't wait. You go and do it. And all praises due to you when you do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, man. So those are the 3 books: Book of Revelations, Book of Life, and Powernomics, man. Those are the ones that definitely changed my life. And then of course I got others. The leadership books that I have, Life Mysteries, Course of Miracles, you know what I mean? I read a lot of things because I want to understand as many things as I can, not to be the know-it-all, but to know a little bit of something. Yeah. So when I have a conversation with people out there, I can have a dialogue that's meaningful.
Right.
You know, science of everything in life for all you scholars out there, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, man. So this has always been a pleasure sharing my thoughts.
Yeah, appreciate the bill. You know.
Yeah, man. I hope that I hope that those that are listening to this, you know, take it in stride. It's not personal, but then again, it is personal. You know, and if you say peace, personally elevate a lost cultural existence, man. You know, if you're really about this, don't play with it. Be successful in all your undertakings. Do the right thing. Be a true example on why we say the children are the greatest, because you have to emulate that. You have to be the example of that so they can what? They can do that just as well by following you to be great. And if you're not great, get there. You still got time. You know what I mean? Although time is short. If you notice, time is getting shorter and shorter.
Yeah.
I sent you something the other day, God, saying the earth is moving faster.
Yeah, I seen that.
Ain't that something? The earth is moving faster, so it's no longer 1,037 miles per hour. Now the real question is, what speed is she really moving in?
Right.
So all you women that are moving fast, slow down. Is what I'm really saying. Slow down. Right? Because no matter where you're going, you'll get there when you get there. Moving too fast, it ain't always worth it. Take your time, do it right. We can do it, baby. I know you heard that song, right? But anyway, man, thank you again, man. I hope that it inspires people, man, who listen to the bill. And, stay on your deen for those that are Muslims. Stay on your study for those that are 5%ers. And for you Christians, get with the real Christian. Get with the Gnostic studies, not the Western man's Christianity. Yeah. Because then if you get with that, then you're going to find out the real truth. And you'll realize half of the things you've been studying is a falsehood. But don't take what I said on face value. Research what I said. And then come back to me and let's have a conversation about it. This was Conversations with God. Life of Law. Peace.